Hello, ladies and gentlemen, at home, in the office, at your screens. We want to make your lunch break as interesting as possible for you. So I'm happy to introduce a new format to you because we're going to use the lunch break to have some really interesting and exciting interviews with very important players of our industries. And let me introduce my first interview guest today. It's Ms. Valeria Tirelli, President and CEO of Aidro, and she's Ambassador for Women in 3D Printing. I'm super excited to talk to her. Valeria, please come to me on stage.
Thank you and good morning.
Hi, Valeria. Good to have you here. So, let me know, what are your highlights, lowlights so far, and especially looking at the last year in the AM industrialization concerns?
Yes, in my experience, there are a lot of new things, and it's a very good technology. I started a few years ago in additive manufacturing. In my previous experience in the Aidro, my company, we were producing valve and manifolds, so it's a very conservative sector. But since we introduced additive manufacturing, everything is changing. We have a very new approach to solve the problem and to create innovative parts. And we are trying to promote this technology. And we see that more and more other companies are adopting this technology. We want really to support the adoption because we see the benefits. The benefit of these parts produced with additive manufacturing are from lightweight, the possibility to integrate multiple parts into one, to improve also the performance and the sustainability of the parts. So we see that there are very huge advantages of using this technology. But of course, there are some still limitations, because in some sectors, especially conventional manufacturing sectors, people are still looking at cost reduction than innovation. While additive manufacturing is bringing a huge innovation, and it's also necessary to have a new approach, a new design approach, and a new mindset to adopt this technology and take the benefit that the technology is offering to us.
So finally, you need to answer the commercial benefit as well. This is
exactly
always a challenge. Yeah, great. So I see you brought a product with you. What is is that a current project you're working at?
Exactly. This is one of our latest projects. This is a valve, an hydraulic valve. I hope you can see it. This is an hydraulic valve used to control the direction of the oil inside the hydraulic systems. And this part is redesigned for additive manufacturing. So the conventional part was made by conventional manufacturing, particularly by casting. And thanks to the redesign for additive, we are able to save more than 60% of the weight. So it's a huge saving in terms of material. And of course, it brings a better performance because it's lighter, but also it's also corrosion resistance because the material that we use is stainless steel. And thanks to the 3D printed material, we have very high mechanical properties that allowed the parts to withstand at a high pressure.
So this is a classic success example for additive manufacturing application. Yeah.
Additive manufacturing, good redesign, but also serial production. Because in this case, we are speaking about thousands of parts per year.
Great. Awesome.
So this is one of the AM industrialization case.
Yeah. And that's absolutely good to hear, because this is always the purpose of such a conference, to find the applications that get to the standard of industrialization. Yes. Great, awesome. You are here also in your role as Ambassador of Women in 3D Printing, an initiative that I highly support, because I think it's really important that we push that forward. So as we're talking about regions and looking into regions, how do you sense the development of women in 3D printing in the different regions? What is your
Yes,
opinion?
I see more and more the presence of the women in additive manufacturing, especially in the US, where the association was founded 8 years ago, but also in Europe now. We have our European chair and local chapter in Italy, in Germany, in France. So most of the countries have their own local chapter. And what I really like of this association is the approach to be inclusive, of course, to allow the diversity, and to help the people to understand the technology and share experience. Because the main aim of the Additive Association, Women 3D Printing, is to close the gender gap in additive manufacturing.
Very important, yeah.
Exactly, but also helping the people to share their own experience, the know-how, the ideas on additive manufacturing. So at the end, it's promoting the general sector of additive manufacturing.
So you are here at a conference that is one of the most important in additive manufacturing. What need to be done further to push that topic, and what would you address the people that are watching in terms of how they can support?
Yes, for sure, is to develop an additive manufacturing mindset that allowed people to use this technology. And what we can do, we can have some sharing of knowledge, expertise, to show real parts that are installed in the field and are working fine, of course.
That would be good, yeah.
And in our association, we are promoting events like digital event or in-person events, like roundtable or happy hour, where the people can show what they do, what their dream also to use additive manufacturing in the future.
Very good. Thank you so much, Valeria. It was a pleasure to have you. Our time is already over. Time flies by. Thank you so much. It was great to have you here, and have a great conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.
So, with this very interesting input, we are coming to our next interview partner. I like to welcome on stage Frank Herzog, founding partner of HZG Group. Frank, come to me.
Hello.
Hi. Frank, very, very good to have you here. I mean, you played yesterday already a very important role in our speed dating with the startup. So how did you perceive the startup event yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday we were early starters, so we were one of the first being here. We were in the speed dating as the HZG Group invests also in 3D printing companies now. It's always very interesting and inspiring to talk to the young people, to the young companies. It's amazing what new ideas are created, things where I think, why did not I have the idea, maybe? But I think it's now my role or our role, as we were supported 25 years ago by 2 investors to start our journey with Concept Laser. Now I think we want to take our money to invest into the most promising ideas of young companies, but especially in the 3D printing area.
Very good. I mean, yesterday you had the comparison between the speed dating and then later on the pitches of the startups. What are your key takeaways so far?
The key takeaways is you're starting from an idea. You see young companies, they have founded, they are starting to create their business. And when I saw the pitch deck, so these are the companies who are a lot further in their development or already very successful. We saw a few examples, and that's the takeaway for me, but also for the very young companies is what speed and what dynamic such a new development, such a new idea can become. And it was also nice to get an overview of the startup market globally. Sometimes it's very nice to learn something new. That's why we're here. But sometimes it's also confirmation, for example, that we are invested in the right places in the world.
Very good, very good. I mean, you are for a long time in the business. You founded yourself, so you know what the startups are going through. How do you see the AM community development regarding startups? Is it an environment-friendly area now for the startups, or would you say with the current condition it's quite difficult to get into the business?
Yeah, it's always difficult and easy. So the difficult thing is that we have an unsecure economic situation at the moment with all the crises. But the good thing is the pandemic did not stop the dynamic in the market, also not in the startup market. I see a lot of activities, creation of new companies. But I've experienced a lot of crises when we started our business. Crisis is always a chance and is always an accelerator, catalyst for innovation. And therefore, I think it's the big time for startups because a lot of companies or investors are thinking about doing something different in the future. This is the situation where they normally also, on the other side, invest in new ideas because they want to transform, they want to make something different, they want to expand into different areas.
What are the main challenges they are facing right now? I mean, I can't count them because we can listen now.
As a
25 challenges at
you
once.
have such a list of challenges, but the main challenges, I think, on the other side is raising capital. At the moment, you know, the currency has increased. I think for example, especially for the Series A companies, I think the follow-up financing could be a challenge. Also to get private money at the moment. We see it at the moment, and I think it will be more challenging in the future. I think these are the main topics for the young companies, and what we see in our investments, especially in the hardware area, the supply chain is for the whole industry a problem, a challenge, but also for the young companies. And when you start a company, I think the lack of experts in the different areas, so on the C-level maybe, or in the human resources, or how to build up a company. So that's where we, with our HZG group, really jump in with our experience and try to help in areas where young companies are unexperienced and need advice.
So you look into a good future, or what you say?
Hey, you know me. I always look in a good future.
That's why I ask you.
There's no reason to change your mind in the negative side. It's always a challenge, especially for startups. I think you face situations, especially I think if I see all the crises beginning from Boeing to pandemic, now the war in Ukraine and the impact which it has on the economic. But there's always a solution. There's always a chance, and it was in the past few hundred years ago, and it is the same now. Crisis is always a chance for innovation. So I think stay on tuned, work on your ideas, try to find the right investors who can support you in the right way to grow and be successful in your area. And let me say, even that when you are in a successful company, there will always be challenges. It will not stop, I can tell you.
The good thing is sometimes AM gives the answer. Thank you so much, Frank, for being here. Our time is already over. It was a pleasure to interview you.
For me too.
Enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very good. Frank Herzog, ladies and gentlemen. And the next one to interview is quite interesting because he comes from the hardware part of our industry. So welcome with me on stage, René Kreissl, Head of Additive Manufacturing at Trumpf. René, I'm super happy to have you here. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Hello, everybody.
Good to have you. René, so we talk now with investors, with somebody who comes more from the application side. Now you from a hardware provider perspective, how do you see regional developments in your industry? Because this is the focus of this conference.
Yeah, maybe let's start with the United States. I think what we can see is very strong growth there. There's a very fast adoption of the technology. And my feeling is that the willingness basically to invest and to taking a risk is a little bit higher than if we compare it, for example, with the Western European countries. What we see there is a very strong network of service providers with a very deep vertical integration, a very deep know-how in additive manufacturing. And maybe let's talk as well about China. China is an interesting and very fast-growing market as well, but to be honest, with a limited access possibility for European machine tool suppliers. Yeah.
Okay, so what are, I mean, you spent yet some time here on the conference. What are your key takeaways so far? I mean, you have a specific position because you are kind of the core of this industries when delivering lasers and co. So what are your key takeaways? What are your wins here?
Yeah, the conference is not over yet, so we have to wait a little bit until the afternoon. But up to now, maybe let's recapture the first day of the conference, which was, for me, impressive. I would highlight really that what was built up here in Munich around the TUM, with the Unternehmertum, with the ecosystem, with the brave founders with great ideas. That was impressive to see that there's still this dynamic and ideas and pressure basically to push that technology forward. And of course, AMTC is the place to be for networking, to meet friends, to meet the AM community, which is still a small community.
Absolutely. Probably we can talk a little bit, what are Trumpf's current projects in additive manufacturing? Where's your current focus? And probably combined again with the regional question, either the project and the regional focus to it.
Yeah, I think that's a good one because we, I would say that we really realized that there are differences in the region. So maybe talk again about the United States. I would say that there is a push towards larger build sizes that is mainly driven by applications coming from aerospace, coming from defense. In Europe, I would say the focus is more, when we talk to customers, the CPP, cost per part discussion. So which possibilities do we have to make the technology more competitive? Automation, so driving that technology in the industrialization, further push it in that direction. And China, like I said, limited market access, but what we see there is that there is a bunch of local machine suppliers with a huge portfolio for certain applications. And yeah, if I can pick out maybe another region, I would maybe highlight Eastern Europe, because I would say that there the focus is really on price performance. So what do you get for the investment? It's an investment sensitive market, and dental plays there. So the dental market plays there still an important role.
Very good. And what can Trumpf do in order to foster the ecosystem, in order to foster the developments in the AM, especially if we come to the cost factor again, because that's what Valeria mentioned as well. So the customers more and more ask, what is the cost per part, or what is the benefit, commercial benefit out of it? What can you contribute to that?
I think one important topic where I really think a lot of is how can we push additive manufacturing and make the market bigger? We are still in a situation that after COVID, basically the market developed on a level before COVID. And for me, it's 3 points. Number one is that we need to invest in education. So at the end, we need to bring additive in the minds of the future engineers. That's a very important topic. And we see as well at Trumpf how difficult that is. So we make 3D printers, and it's hard to convince our engineers to use additive because they're just not used to do. Today we have around 6 series parts in our own products, and that's not enough. Let's say it like that. We need the help of the universities to educate our future engineers, AM engineers, and of course, I think that's our responsibility, what we do, for example, in the VDMA association, that we try to create a transparency about qualification programs, which they are out there, but I think there is a need for making that transparent. But the point number 2, and I think that's has the same importance like education, is that there need to be a top-down approach. You need managers who have the strong willingness, the commitment to implement additive manufacturing in their company. Because if you have only the engineers who think in additive, but you don't have the top-down commitment, it will not work as well. Absolutely, so at the end, it needs to be both. And the third point that answers maybe your question a little bit more, because you're going in that direction, what can we do as a machine tool provider, supplier, is we need to focus on the industrialization of that technology. Still, we've done great work, I think, in the past. So I think we are not in the phase anymore where we need to discuss about robustness and reliability. We had these discussions in the last AMTMs in the last 2 years, I would even say. It's increasing productivity, so different times of increasing laser power, number of lasers, beam shaping. But on the other hand, it's not only that, it's much more around that. It's using maybe hybrid manufacturing, so combining different additive technologies like the cladding and the laser powder bed fusion. I think that has a huge potential. If we talk about big parts, we don't always need a big build size. We can as well print them in the powder bed and then maybe join them with the LMD process. And this is really something where I see what we can do on our side. So it's robustness, of course. I think we have made a big step, and of course reducing cost per part. At the end, this is what is behind that. We need to be more competitive, to be more attractive, and to get more applications at the end, and that will make the market bigger.
And more attractive. I think this is the key part that I take out of this interview. Anyway, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for the interview. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. René Kreissl, ladies and gentlemen. And my next interview partner is working for a hosting partner, and therefore it's super interesting to have him here. Please give a warm welcome to Markus, Tacke, CEO of OSS Oerlikon. Markus, good to have you. Have a seat, dear Markus.
Thanks a lot.
Good to have you.
A pleasure.
So first of all, I mean, you are part of the company that is responsible for all this. How do you like the conference so far?
I really like it. It's a wonderful forum to exchange ideas. I really appreciate also the breaks, to be honest. We can go out and exchange. There's very strong input from the talks and the very important participants here. But also the breaks are quite useful to exchange ideas and make contact. So it's valuable. I see it a very valuable conference.
Glad that you like it. Perfect. How do you sense the regional AM developments? Because we want to have a focus this year on regions from a service provider perspective. Any highlights you can share from your experience?
I think the key word you're using here is service provider. We are a service provider in the AM industry. And if you want to provide a service, you need to be close to your customer. So if you're not close to the customer, you don't understand their needs. We spend a lot of effort in application development. So the customers will come with their design part, and we make it an AM printable part. So there's lots of interaction that needs to happen on the regional level. So we are working on regional hubs in the US, Europe, as well as in China, developing our regional hubs, our regional competencies there. In order to really serve our customers. And there's another reason that many of the parts may not leave the country where they're produced. So there is no way then other to go regional. On top of this, you lose economy of scale if you do everything regional. So there is a competence management, not on the part specifics, but on the process know-how we have. We manage it on a global scale. So if there's a part printed in Europe, we can easily transfer printing know-how, process know-how into our operations in the US without knowing specific details of the part maybe, but certainly applying our printing know-how and as well as our material know-how.
Very good. You as a CEO, I mean, you have a good overview over the countries, over the markets. Where would you say is currently the hot spot of your activities? Is it, can you say that, or is it equal?
It's three industries that really have starting to industrialize. What we really see in the industry now is, compared to 3 or 5 years ago, it was prototyping. Now it's industrialization. We had it here before in the interviews. It's about industrialization. And we are seeing production that goes in hundreds and thousands of identical parts that need to be identical, part one as well as part 1,000. So there's really a new change. And the industries that have pushed that, coming from the innovation part, is certainly space, lots of application in space. There is in aviation, lots of applications in innovation, especially in the engines, and of course defense.
So would you say that we already are seeing the breakthrough? Because I remember we are discussing all the time about industrialization and we are coming strongly from the prototyping part. Would you say we are at the point where more and more industry can say, yeah, this is an industrialized technology, we can use it?
We are there, and we need to really ask ourselves, what objectives do we deliver by doing AM printing? And for me, that is, we can provide superior functionality, which is not possible by any other conventional method. It is a weight optimization possibility, and it is timing. So I always look if there's something, an opportunity, which one of the levers do we do we serve? And if it's 2, 3 is even better, but if it's 2, then it's probably a pretty good AM product. I don't see a serial produced, precision casted or forged part being replaced by AM, not in the foreseeable future. That's not the home turf of AM. This industrial process is done for 100 years. What AM can really bring, if you really focus on additional functionality which cannot be delivered otherwise, the weight, space is obviously a weight topic. It can save a lot of weight and fuel and costs, obviously. And then timing. My first AM part is 15 years ago. It was basically, for timing reasons, it was a forged part. Delivery times were quite long, so we printed it. So we created the raw material by printing. So you need to find the sweet spot where you can make a difference. And then also, there's a value and there's a price for it that can cover the cost.
You mentioned you are very close to your customers and you see them developing. What are the key competencies you need in the future to be successful in AM? What would you say?
As I talked about industrialization, I see, let's start with the application. For me, a key differentiator is still to being able to move from the drawing board, where maybe an engineer that is not educated in AM, we just heard education is a big need, that in the universities there's training of the next generation of engineers to know what AM can do. So these parts, we make AM printable parts of it, so application development. And here it's focus. We don't do any applications. We really set 4 focus areas. There we build our competencies and we feel comfortable in these areas. We would develop the next one. So building it piece by piece. So application management, application engineering, make it printable parts. That's the key differentiator. Everybody can switch on and off a printer, but make it a printable part in time, at cost, and at quality. And that's industrialization part, which is the next important stop. Industrialization, we need to make sure we are reliable. Part 1 is equal as part 1,000. So the industrialization, being able to manage industrialization with the typical triangle of time, cost, and quality. It comes back if you start to industrialize, and this is another one you need to manage.
Very good. Thank you so much, Markus, for being our guest. Very fruitful input. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks a lot.
Markus Tacke, ladies and gentlemen. And now, he is not here live with us, but that doesn't matter because you at home at screens, you can see him, and he has a very specific location selected. Hi, Tuan, how are you in the car? Good to see you. Tuan, TranPham CRO from Azul 3D. Tuan, good to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Sven. I'm delighted to be here.
Perfect. So, I mean, you're watching virtually, I guess, so it's hard for you to be here at the same time. So how do you like the AMTC so far? Have you had the opportunity to watch a little bit the program?
Yes, I have. I did attend 2 of the previous events. What excites me is when I see the AM community coming together, when you have exchange of ideas, excitement will always be ahead. So it's always bringing people together, and I appreciate Oerlikon putting together this important forum every year.
Great. We are here to explore the latest trends and technologies. From your point of view, what are the latest trends and technologies you want to share with us?
So I'm pretty active on social media, so I do read a lot and see a lot. I think if you look at what is going on, there are 3 things. 2021 has never been a better year for the entire industry. You saw 3 times more startups. You saw $2 billion funding going into the industry. There are new innovations, so there's no better time than right now. So to answer your question, what are the latest trends I see? I see a lot of excitement in new verticals, such as finally with speed and productivity, we see consumers vertical growing. We see automotive, but also for the industrial side. Besides from that, there's also a change in buying behavior right now in terms of before people were not buying or leasing anymore, but that they would now going to the point where they just want the part at the right quality at the right time. They do not need to own or lease the machine. So we talk about AWS 3D printing in the cloud.
Which is very good, absolutely. We talked about some needs. Industrialization was always mentioned in the previous interviews. What do you think is the need for AM to further industrialize? What would your recommendation where we should put focus in the future?
I think the industry as a whole has a lot of work to do. It typically takes about 50 years for most technologies like the internet, the plane, the car to mature. 3D printing is over 38 years old. So the next decade is very important that we improve. So to answer your question, we have for many, many decades just focusing on making a hardware, put some software materials and just do prototyping. But for real serial production, mass production, really additive manufacturing is a different ball game. And this is why it's exciting to see CNC players to get into this space. In short, 3D printing is where CNC was at the stage 40 years ago. So 3D printing has to grow up from rapid prototype to rapid manufacturing mindset. They mean uptime, reliability, traceability, repeatability. To give you an example, maybe 3D printers should have eyes and brains. What do I mean by that? Maybe 3D printers should have vision in situ process monitoring. So in real time, actually seeing what you're printing. And maybe we should have brains incorporated into the printers, meaning having machine learning so that we can learn over time as more and more people are operating this system. So to go to the next, for the industry to grow beyond the 1 billion to 14 billion to 120 billion, we have to be in mass production. So it's looking at the whole solution for the whole workflow. And I'm excited to see in recent years that post-processing is getting more credit for their role, because the truth is printing itself is not everything. No 3D printing is printing net shape as is. There's always some kind of post-processing. And you have to factor that in, not just the design, the printing, but for the whole process and for inspection. So I think what excites me is we are seeing a change of guards, meaning we had the GE Additive spending 1.4 billion buying concept laser. And in Arkham in the past, we're seeing Xerox getting in, but there might be some turbulence right now. But I'm excited about Nikon and therefore Mitsubishi to have more big players and more validation to the industry. So I'm excited about taking the learning and the leadership and management of subtractive manufacturing, applying that for additive and bringing 3D printing to mass production.
That goes in line what René says about the awareness of the management, that there must be a top-down approach. Let's have a look on the regions. How do you consider regional differences, and where are the different regions are standing from your perspective right now in AM?
I still see most innovation because the high focus on academia. A lot of the newer innovation like volumetric or hybrid or crossover 3D printing, a lot of innovation is still happening much more in the US. There's much more funding in the US. European still dominates with a lot of transportation of real manufacturing. In Asia, it's very exciting times right now with the pandemic and recession, where people are worried about lead time from Asia, trying to figure out, should we move to additive and printed it locally in the Western world. So I see the excitement in Asia as well, trying to step up to keep that manufacturing. Traditionally, we have been offloading all the manufacturing to Asia, but actually 3D printing can bring manufacturing back to the Western world, back to the US. So Asia has to evolve and transform because 3D printing could disrupt the entire supply chain and therefore their place in the marketplace. And that means Asia, that has been just doing manufacturing, whatever design was made, is now stepping up. I see a lot more excitement to take more of the value chain, try to also incorporate the design value for additive beyond just buying a printer and making parts.
That was a very good description, and it makes me really excited looking into the future of AM, what is happening in the different regions. Tuan, it was a pleasure to have you here. Thanks that you joined us at this location, and you were perfectly understandable. Thank you so much for your input. Have a great and fantastic day, and I hope you get some time to join the conference virtually again. Thank you so much, Tuan. Have a great day. Thank you for the interview. Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, you at home, that was our interview sessions. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you get really interesting input out of it. We will leave you some minutes to have a quick lunch break before we keep on going in our program. It was a pleasure to have you here. Enjoy the rest of the conference. See you. Bye-bye.